Thank you for that overview, Byron. And then Harry and I both watched Good Grief. I don't think you watched that one, Byron, right? Okay. I just
No.
finished it this afternoon, so very fresh on the mind. Harry, you just watched it a couple nights ago, so I know you kind of told me a little bit about it already. But what are your kind of general thoughts on the film?
Yeah, I'm really keen to see if we land in the same place. I think it's a very by the book generic tearjerker. I love Dan Levy. I love his acting style. I do believe he can do better in terms of writing with this script. I think the script is where
Mhm.
this movie completely falls apart. I think the beginning 30 minutes is very solid. Very, very solid. And then it just becomes like a whole like, oh, if you're depressed, just go to Paris. Like it very much just becomes like a just spend money on everything. And I feel like that's kind of is a kind of dangerous lesson to kind of teach people in a way that's like how you're going to get over grief. I like the idea of this movie. There's like a little twist in the middle of it, but then that becomes like a non-twist, like that like the main character. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. That like he should have known this was happening, yada yada, or something like it. Kind
Yeah,
of weird. You know what I mean? But like as a whole, it's fine. Like it's unfortunately it's just nothing more than fine for me.
yeah.
I didn't watch it sober, so when I watched it, finished the movie, I was like, that was good. Rated 3.5. Woke up the next morning, like completely sober, and I was like, that ain't 3.5. So
Clarity set in.
yeah, I lowered it to 2.5. I don't think
Yeah.
I'll lower it again. I think 2.5 for me is a good area for this. I didn't not have a good time with this, like, but it's just very much. It just feels so frustrating at the same time. These characters are just so emotionally frustrating. They just feel like they're not real, to a point where like just the way that they react to random stuff is like I'm thinking to myself of like the way that one of his best friends played by Himish, the guy from his first name's
Tell.
Himish Patel. Thank you, the guy from Yesterday. Who I love that guy by the way. I think he's awesome. But I think Ruth
Hmm.
Negga steals this film personally. I think
Oh,
Ruth
yeah, 100%.
she's unreal. But just the way that they respond to some of the revelations that he has, I'm like, that's not what people would say like in this sort of scenario, and I kind of that kept taking me out of it. I felt like Dan Levy was writing in a way that very much is his directorial debut. So well done, but he was writing this in a way that every scene had to have a catalyst towards depression and grief and going through something when it doesn't need to be like that. It literally just
Hmm.
doesn't. Like some scenes can just be in there as a journey rather than like oh, this is going to add again to it, or this is going to subtract on it. Like it doesn't need to be like that. That's kind of my main
Yeah.
takeaway. It was just a little bit frustrating. But like in terms of acting, I thought they were great. I love Dan Levy. I think he's great on screen. I'll always watch something in. I still haven't watched Schitt's Creek, so I do need to watch that.
Do
But
that
yeah,
immediately.
yeah, I've heard that's incredible. But yeah, I thought it was fine. Yeah. What about
Yeah, I
yourself?
think coming from someone who's very versed in Schitt's Creek, and like that's my main like introduction to him. And he's a writer, obviously, creator for that show and acts in it. I think this felt to me like someone who has a lot of experience writing TV shows where you can kind of layer a lot of things in because there's going to be multiple seasons versus this
Yeah.
was like he tried to layer too many things in into an hour and 35-minute movie where nothing can really be fleshed out. And I think that was kind of where the script got a little bit messy, was that
Yeah.
he tried to like do too much, but nothing ever really had an impact on the audience because you couldn't really like spend long enough with a moment to like connect to it.
Yeah.
At least that's kind of how it felt for me. Like I actually didn't even cry watching this, which is shocking for someone like me. I always cry in like movies where it's very emotional or involves like death usually, and I didn't even cry because I felt like I just couldn't like connect to the characters. Um, there was one scene at the beginning where I think I told you that at the funeral where it was like I almost did, but it still didn't quite get me there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the acting was really good, and I think the movie was beautiful. I mean, it was
Oh,
the
beautifully
shots were
shot. Yeah.
great,
I was sending photos to
beautiful to look
Byron
at.
throughout it. I was like, check this shot. And he's like, that's sick.
I
And it
mean,
was like
Paris
this.
is always a
Yeah, it's
great
Paris.
location for movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, overall, the script was a bit messy. I think he kind of did himself a disservice by having his first movie be one he wrote, directed, and starred in.
Yeah.
I think maybe if he would have just wrote and directed something, maybe it would have been a little bit different, more like removed from it. But I know that he's talked about he lost his grandmother and his like long-term dog all around the same time. And so this was sort of like this movie was his way of dealing with the grief. And so I feel like maybe in that sense, you can really see like the like Dan Levy coming out of it. Like I think in some ways maybe this is partially ways that helped him kind of grieve what he went through, but I just don't think it was as relatable to like your average day person watching it.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
agreed.
definitely worth a watch, but I agree with you. I'm kind of leaning between like 2.5 and really low, like three
Yeah.
stars, just because I do adore him. But I think for a directorial debut, it was fine. I
It
think
was
he'll
fine.
do
Like it's not
better.
terrible. Like I'm watching this being like I finished it being like I woke up the next day after finishing it and I was like I'm still excited to see what else he does. Like
Of course.
like
Yeah.
I think you can see talent in this. So that's kind of what I
Hmm.
took away from it. I don't know, maybe I'm just
Yeah.
really optimistic. Maybe I'm
No,
too
I think you're,
optimistic. Maybe I
no, I
should
think you're
hate more
right
stuff.
because no, don't hate more stuff. Don't be a hater, Harry.
No, I would never.
No,
I
I
would never.
think that if you watch Schitt's Creek, you'll kind of see the talent that he has as
Yeah,
far as like writing, because him and his dad wrote that show together, but
which is
mostly Dan
adorable.
Levy.
I love
Yeah.
Eugene. Love Eugene.
Yeah. So I think you'll have a different perspective on him maybe once you've kind of watched that. But yeah, definitely think it's worth a watch, but I don't think it's going to be like anyone's favorite movie of all time by any
Yeah.
means.
No. Like, it's like yeah. Again, like I do think he's supremely talented. Like obviously he
Yeah.
is. He's got so much success. He's got a lot of fandom behind him. But yeah, I think yeah, I agreed. Everything you said for a directorial debut, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Agreed. Which sometimes that's all you can ask for
Hey,
a
it's a
first film.
directorial debut. You're gonna learn from it. Like
And it's not A24, so we know it's not going to be a 5 out of 5 for a
no,
directorial
yeah,
debut.
it's no
So,
men. It's no men.
Had too many of the fuck off.
which that was not his directorial debut, Harry, so
No,
that
I
doesn't
know,
really work.
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. But every now and then, we got to remember that that was an A24 film.
Yeah, yeah.